When you look at where the Cowboys stand right now, it's hard not to feel that quiet shift happening in the background. You know exactly what I mean. When the playoff picture starts to feel more like wishful thinking than a realistic roadmap, fans naturally start turning their eyes toward the draft. And with Dane Brugler dropping his first major 2026 mock draft, the timing couldn't be better. Dallas has 2 first-round picks, and that alone makes this entire conversation a lot more exciting than usual. So let's break this down together, just you and me, the way we always do here on the channel. The first thing Dane's mock makes clear is that the top of the board is absolute chaos. Quarterbacks fly off with heavy trades, 3 in a row, and that immediately takes the Cowboys out of any conversation involving the elite QB prospects. That's the price of winning just a little too many games to be in that range. Then you look at the edges, and it's almost shocking how quickly they disappear. 4 in the top 8. In a class that's already considered light at the very top, that early run puts Dallas in a position where they're watching premium positions get wiped out before they even get a chance to speak. You see Carnell Tate go at 4, Kelrick Falk at 5, Reuben Bain at 6. Then David Bailey goes off too, which stings because that would have been a dream fit for Dallas if he somehow slid. But he didn't. And as those names come off the board, it becomes obvious how narrow the Cowboys' realistic options will be once the clock hits pick 16. Now here's where I want to pull you in. Are you already in draft mode? Or are you still holding on to that last sliver of playoff hope? I really want to know where you stand. Drop it in the comments, because it actually helps shape how deep we go into these draft videos. And if you want more of these breakdowns, make sure you're subscribed. We're pushing hard toward that 17,000 subscriber milestone, and your support genuinely builds this community. Back to the board. One thing Dane makes clear is that the early picks leave the Cowboys staring at a front-loaded class with limited top-tier choices. Corners, linebackers, maybe a tackle, those will be the most realistic areas where Dallas can actually find value at 16. But with edges wiped out and quarterbacks gone, it puts even more pressure on Dallas to hit on the best player available rather than drafting for the dream scenario. Let me throw you a quick question. Just to gauge the room, if the Cowboys stay at pick 16, do you think the priority should be defense? Just a simple yes or no in the comments helps me read where your head is at. The good news is that the real conversation gets interesting once we start looking at who the Cowboys actually take in Dane's mock at 16. And that takes us straight into the next part of this breakdown. All right, let's dig into Jer McCoy and why Dane Brugler has him landing with the Cowboys at pick 16. Because this is where the draft talk goes from theory to reality, and the stakes get real for Dallas's secondary. First up, yes, McCoy is a risk. He tore his ACL at the end of 2024 and didn't play in 2025, so there's no recent tape to evaluate him on. But here's the flip side. His 2024 film was legitimately elite. Scouts love his instincts, his ball skills, and his length for the position. If he's fully healed by the combine, which he should be a year after the injury, you're looking at a player who could easily have been a top 10 name in a different timeline. That's the kind of upside Brugler is betting on at 16. Now, let's connect that to Dallas's real problems. The cornerback room has been a carousel of flashes and frustrations all season. Trayvon Diggs' future in Dallas is uncertain, and frankly, a lot of the younger corners have been inconsistent. Some plays are great, others are head-scratching. Coaching and scheme may be part of the issue, but you can't argue with the fact that the Cowboys are short on dependable high-end cover guys outside of a small core. Drafting a blue-chip talent like McCoy, even with the ACL caveat, would be a statement pick. It says You're prioritizing long-term shutdown ability over short-term comfort. We also have to be realistic about medical timelines and development. Players come back from ACL tears all the time and return to top form, but there's always a small question mark. If you're Dallas, you weigh that question mark against the prospect's ceiling. Is it worth a first-round capital? Brugler seems to think so, because if McCoy hits, he doesn't just fill a spot. He changes how offenses have to attack the Cowboys. Suddenly, routes that used to be low risk for opponents become contested, and that helps linebackers and safeties look better too. Here's where I want you to jump in. Would you take McCoy at 16, knowing his ACL history, but loving the upside? Type yes, take the upside, or no, too risky in the ITT comments. I read every single reply, and it helps shape future videos. Also, if you're finding this breakdown useful, hit the like button. It literally helps other Cowboys fans find the channel. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to push us closer to our 17,000 subscriber goal. That support helps me deliver more deep dive draft content like this. To wrap this part up, McCoy at 16 is a classic high upside, medically questioned pick. If he returns to form, he's a foundational piece. If he doesn't, you've spent a premium pick on potential that might be delayed. That tension is exactly why the draft is so compelling for Cowboys fans right now. If you're ready, great, let's move into the next piece of this draft conversation. Because once you step outside the McCoy pick, things get even more interesting for the Cowboys at 16. This is where the board opens up, and where Dallas will need to decide whether they want to swing for upside, play it safe, or address a very specific need. And based on Dane Brugler's board, the Cowboys were staring at several legitimately tempting names when they went on the clock. Let's start with the offensive line options, because that might quietly be the biggest long-term need on the roster. Terrence Steele hasn't locked down the right tackle spot the way Dallas hoped. And if you want to solidify Dak Prescott's protection or set up the next quarterback for success, this is where players like Caden Proctor or Francis Mingo enter the conversation. Both were available in Brugler's projection. Proctor brings size and power, while Mingo offers more polish and technique. If you want a day-one contributor with a high floor, either one would have made real sense. Dallas tends to value athletic, moldable linemen, so either name belongs firmly in the discussion. Then you get into the defensive players who were available, specifically linebacker and edge, two spots where the Cowboys have struggled this season. Sonny Styles and C.J. Allen were both still on the board at this point, and each brings a different flavor of toughness and intelligence. Styles has been outstanding inside a loaded defense, while Allen is everything Dallas wishes its current linebackers were: instinctive, decisive, and physical. If the Cowboys had gone linebacker at 16, it wouldn't have been shocking, especially with the way the run defense has looked at times. Edge rusher is where things get complicated. This class is light at the top, and by the time Dallas picked, most of the elite names were already gone. The edge position is one of those spots where reaching can burn you, so if you're not convinced a player is worth first-round capital, it's smart to look elsewhere. T.J. Parker was the highest remaining option, but he hasn't had the season people expected. Production dipped, key stats regressed, and you never want to draft a pass rusher just because he's the best of what's left. That's how teams end up regretting picks 3 years later. And then there's the wild card: cornerback outside of McCoy. Avon Terrell, the Clemson product, was still on the board. He's physical, tough, and plays with a chip on his shoulder, something this defense desperately needs. If you wanted a scheme-versatile, no-nonsense competitor, Terrell would have been a solid pick. The question is, whether he offers the same upside as McCoy when both are healthy. And that's where opinions start to split. Some evaluators see Terrell as a safer option, with a narrower growth window, while McCoy is the higher ceiling but higher risk selection. Let me throw this to you because your opinion drives what we break down next. Based on the names available, Proctor, Mingo, Styles, Allen, Terrell, and the remaining edge options, who would you have taken at 16 if McCoy wasn't the pick? Drop the name in the comments so I know which prospects deserve deeper videos on the channel. And hey, if you're enjoying this level of detail, make sure to subscribe. Every new supporter helps push us closer to that 17,000 subscriber goal and keeps Cowboys draft coverage alive all off-season. Perfect. Now we get to one of the best parts of this entire mock draft, the Cowboys' second first-round pick. And look, if you weren't completely sold on McCoy at 16, this is the moment Dane Brugler wins almost everybody back, because the selection at 27 is exactly the type of player Dallas has been missing for years. This is where Brugler sends the Cowboys' C.J. Allen, the linebacker out of Georgia, and let me tell you, this is the kind of pick that completely changes the tone of a defense. Allen is everything this current linebacking core is not. He diagnoses plays instantly, attacks downhill with confidence, and plays with a level of aggression and physicality that Dallas desperately needs in the middle of the field. When Brugler describes his game, the instincts, the block shedding, the tackling reliability, the competitive fire, he's basically listing all the weaknesses that have shown up week after week in this defense. If you've been frustrated watching linebackers get washed out of gaps, arrive late to the ball, or hesitate in space, Allen feels like the perfect antidote. This pick also fits a long-term need. When you look at next year's roster, the Cowboys have bodies at linebacker. DeMarvion Overshown returning from injury, Maurice Lingard Jr., Shamar James, Logan Wilson under contract. But outside of Overshown and maybe Wilson, you don't really have anyone you trust to be the anchor of the position group. Meanwhile, Kenneth Murray continues to get snaps that test everyone's patience, and Jack Sanborn could be on his way out as a free agent. Adding a player like Allen gives the team something they simply don't have: a true, high IQ, instinctive three-down linebacker who elevates the entire defense. Brugler even hints at Roquan Smith-Light comparisons. You don't throw that name around casually, especially not for a Georgia linebacker. But Allen's production backs it up. Sacks, tackles for loss, total tackles. He's checked every box. And remember, this is all happening before Georgia even gets to its conference championship game. His arrow is pointing straight up. The best part is how this pick balances out the McCoy selection. You get a potential shutdown corner with star-level upside early, then you follow it with the smartest, most polished linebacker on the board. The two complement each other perfectly. One helps lock down the passing game, the other strengthens the heart of the run defense. If Dallas walked out of the first round with McCoy and Allen, most fans, and honestly, a lot of front office executives, would call that a home run. Let me ask you directly, if this exact pairing happened on draft night, how would you grade the Cowboys' first round? A, B, C, D, or F? Drop your grade so we can compare it with what fans on the channel are saying. And if you love this kind of deep dive draft coverage, make sure you're subscribed. We're pushing hard toward 17,000 supporters, and every subscription helps keep these breakdowns coming. So here's the big picture takeaway after riding through Brugler's mock with me. Taken together, those two first-rounders, an upside corner like McCoy and a rock-solid linebacker like C.J. Allen, would give Dallas a defensive backbone that changes how teams attack them. McCoy brings that potential shutdown ability that can tighten up the perimeter and make opposing quarterbacks think twice. Allen brings the instincts and physicality that stop the run and make the entire second level play cleaner. That combination addresses two of the Cowboys' most glaring issues at once: coverage consistency and linebacker play. But it's not the end of the story, and you know that as well as I do. The draft is only one piece of the offseason puzzle. Edge rush and pass rush help remain glaring needs if the board truly dries up. Early, Brugler's mock makes it obvious why the Cowboys might still walk away from the first night needing to find an edge in free agency or by gambling on a later round prospect. Similarly, interior defensive line reinforcements, depth along the offensive line, and that secondary safety piece are all areas where the team could still spend in free agency or target in rounds 2 and 3. The mock gives you the blueprint for a defensive pivot, but it also highlights the pressure the front office will face to complement those picks with shrewd moves elsewhere. Another reality to keep in mind: injuries and medical timelines will color how teams evaluate players like McCoy. Taking high-upside, medically questioned prospects is a bet on the organization's medical staff and development plan. If you're the kind of fan who values immediate impact over long-term upside, that decision will feel riskier. If you're more patient and want long-term contention, you'll see the appeal. There's no single correct philosophy here, only trade-offs. Before we close, I want to hear your final thoughts. If the Cowboys finish the first round with McCoy and Allen, how do you grade the haul? A, B, C, D, or F? And one more vote for the room. Should Dallas double down on defense across the board? Or should they use free agency and later picks to shore up offense instead? Drop your grade and your vote in the comments. I read every reply.